so excited, and I'm so excited to be speaking to you over in the States, which is incredible. And I love this platform and what you are all about. So I guess I started my journey into wellness in 2018. I really think it was 2018. After I hit burnout and rock bottom, and I've been nursing. I think this is my 24th year in nursing, and I have obviously had a long career in nursing, but I got to that stage where I just didn't want to keep going. And I knew inside that I loved my job and I was a good nurse, but I was burnt out and I was so exhausted. And I then decided to, it was a choice. Do I keep going the way I'm going, or do I turn this around and try and, create a life that I'm healthy, I'm, energized, and I love my job again? Or do I just leave and, try and find something else? So it was then that I dived all into personal development, which led me to create and start the Healthy Happy Nurse, which is, I guess, my brand and the name of my 12-week program. So I started that in a year. So it was a year, March 2020, that I wrote my course. It took me about 12 months to write my program, just documenting all of the steps that I took on my journey to wellness. And at that point in burnout, I was drinking heavily. So I was in a really, really bad place. I wasn't eating well. I was drinking every day, and it was just that rock bottom, dark place. So to get from there to where I am now, I had so many people asking me along the way, what are you doing? What are you doing? You look so different. You look amazing. You're super clear in your workplace now. You've got so much energy. You've lost weight. Your skin's clear. And I was like, I need to do something about this. And a beautiful friend of mine really encouraged me to put this out there for nurses, and so I did. So I've had the platform, the Healthy Happy Nurse, running now for 12 months. So
yeah, that's great. We also started about a year ago as well, or it was a year ago when the pandemic first started. Like, we thought that was a great time, and that's a great time that you started also to support
yes,
during that difficult time.
definitely. And the pressure's on more so now than ever for us nurses. Our work has changed. Everything's changed. A typical day doesn't look the same anymore, and there is that added pressure. And so I think having these platforms for nurses to explore is just, in a healthy way to move forward in their lives, physically, mentally, emotionally, is so important. So yeah.
Right. And there was lots of demands, with the pandemic too. People were being shifted around. And also some places probably experienced like unsafe patient nurse ratios, lack of PPE and things like that. So, I mean, we definitely always want to do what's good for patients, but also need to respect our boundaries and make them known too, to keep us safe and going. So.
Exactly. And I think the old me would not have coped in this situation. So had I have not done this work, and I work in emergency now in a hospital in Queensland, in a regional facility. It's fairly small, but we see quite a lot of sick people, road traumas. And we're a busy hospital, but I don't think I could have coped with what we're facing now in the pandemic. And like you say, all the pressures and the demands are so different. And the old me who was exhausted and burnt out, I'm just not, I think I just would have walked out the door and, you know, thrown my hands up in the air, which is looking at, it's really sad to think that, because I love what I do. You know, all of us, we come into this job and role as a nurse because it fulfills us, it lights us up. We have so much to give. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to talk about boundaries.
Perfect topic.
And just protecting your energy as a nurse. So should I share my
your screen
slides?
Yeah.
Okay. How does that look? Can you see that?
Yeah, looks good.
Perfect. All right. So as you all know, my name's Michelle, and mum of 3 children, and founder of the Healthy Happy Nurse program. And as Claudia said before, I help women free themselves from overwhelm, burnout, and help them live a life that's filled with health, happiness, and abundance. I work in the busy emergency department in Queensland, Australia. But my background in nursing is primarily coronary care, intensive care, radiology, and cardiothoracics. So a little bit about my history, which I briefly touched on. So I really climbed the ladder through nursing, and I worked in a really, really big tertiary hospital in Melbourne, so in Victoria, a different state to where I am now. And I completed my graduate certificate in intensive cardiac nursing, and I became a clinical nurse specialist in cardiothoracics and coronary care. So I was, you know, essentially in charge of, you know, my shifts when I was working in a big ward. And I climbed the ladder and really enjoyed my career. In 2016, though, after the birth of my 3rd child, I went back to work when she was 12 months old, and pretty quickly I hit rock bottom. So I was in a really, really dark place, and I started to resent my workplace and the people around me and my family. And that was when I turned to alcohol to just cope with life and work. And I really found that I felt that life was happening to me. I gained weight, I was bloated, I was uncomfortable, I had no energy, and I had no boundaries with my time or energy. So I was really available to everyone. So, and I mean my friends, my family, my workplace. I didn't know how to protect my energy, and I would leave work every shift feeling really, really sad, frustrated, and exhausted, and just wondering, how was I going to show up tomorrow? And how would I get through the next week? So that was my life for a good few years. And in our roles as nurses, you know, we require so much amounts of physical, emotional, and mental energy to provide care to our patients. And so many of us suffer in silence and really don't speak up or don't know where to go when we're feeling this way and just feeling exhausted all the time. And, you know, we give our all, and we're selfless creatures, us nurses, and sometimes that can be work against us. So to perform at our optimum and to really enjoy a healthy and rewarding career, it's so important for us to protect our energy and implement boundaries. So today I want to talk about creating and implementing boundaries as a nurse, creating empowering daily rituals, exploring where your true calling lies in nursing, and developing your self-worth. So with boundaries, what I learned along the way was just to stop and really check inwards with myself here. And for those who are watching, if you can really check in with yourself here and think about, who do you spend time with out of work? Are you always available to them? Are they high vibe people or energetically draining? And that's one thing for me, that I was not really aligned with the people I was with outside of work. And I found that I was always available for them. I was always, getting text messages and always had them popping around. And that included friends and neighbors and some family as well. And I found that my time was really being taxed because I couldn't say no and I couldn't implement boundaries. And mind you, I was working 5 days a week. So life was busy, 3 children as well. And then I realized that, work was calling me on my days off to come in. And, does this happen for you? I mean, I'm not sure with, the States and Australia, what happens in terms of shifts and rostering and workplace, but because we're a regional hospital here, we don't have the backup of staff that a big city would. So we are often called and called to come in on our days off, called to come in earlier, called to work a lot of overtime. And at first I was answering the phone, and of course the guilt sets in, and it's like, oh, what do I say? No. Now I don't answer my phone, and that's okay. I've learned to say no or not answer the phone, and especially to those other people around you that want some of your time and energy out of work, saying no is okay. And it's our right to protect our energy and insert those boundaries, because it doesn't make us a bad person. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. When I was working in the hospital in California, I mean, definitely there's days where, people call you to see if you can work extra or later. And so you have to, think if that's right for you. And, being, wanting to help, like you can feel this guilt, like if you can't go in or whatnot, or if they're short staffed. Yeah. But you also don't want to be exhausted taking care of patients and, being too tired and make a mistake. That would be horrible. Or suffer burnout and then not want to go in later because of it. So if you kind of just think about it in those terms, that can help you, or at least it can help me, like rationalize, like, okay, and it's okay to say no, like this is actually for my well-being and for the patient's well-being.
That's right. And I think it's okay to fill the spots on the floor in the department and have nurses on there, but I don't think, management and that think of the bigger picture and the potential for mistakes, the well-being of our nurses in longevity in their career and long term. Yeah. Because, they obviously want to fill the spot now and get us, have the nurses on the floor for that particular shift, and that's okay for today type thing. But long term, the picture they need to look bigger and wider, because this is where so many nurses, and I see my younger colleagues putting their hand up and not saying no to all of these overtime and extra shifts, and they're walking out the door absolutely broken and in tears. and they're not sure or not able to have that confidence to say, no, I'm just not up for this today to stay 12 hours or to come in tomorrow. So, yeah.
And then you kind of touched upon an interesting point too, where you have to kind of figure out who is like worth your time or the energy, or if they're giving you good energy, or if it's draining. And I think that the pandemic actually helped with that in a way, because you were not hanging out in huge groups or like with everyone, and you're trying to think like, oh, who, friendship is, you want to cultivate, and who's giving you this positive energy, and who's really not, or not right now type of things. So I think in that way it kind of filter out certain interactions too.
Yeah, definitely. And it was something that I really did a big cleanse. This was pre-pandemic. So obviously things have changed now with, social distancing and groups and that type of thing. But I had to do a big cleanse because I was so available to everyone, that I realized that I was on all the time. I was on at work and I was on at home, and people wanted to see me and wanted to do coffee or drop around and have me help them with their child who'd cut themselves. And it was like, oh, I haven't got a minute here to myself or my family. So I really had to put some boundaries in place around when I was available, or not get back to the text messages that come in straight away. Yeah. So with boundaries around our energy, I guess I like to think of it as we all have an energetic cup. So we've all got this energetic cup or tank of wellness, if you like. And everything is energy. When we are well and feeling really good, we have the energy to enjoy our lives to its fullest potential, to function and perform at our optimum. But giving our energy to anything else obviously depletes our own levels. Work, family, sports, everything that we interact in are all energy depleting activities. And they're all just part of life, obviously. So it's important to ensure, we have boundaries around our energy, and to keep filling up our cup, to keep filling up that tank, to be able to function on that optimal range. And so I really encourage people to sort of look inwards and reflect inwards about what lights you up, what really fills up your cup, and what doesn't. What brings you joy? Is there a hobby that you can do that out of work that is just for you, that really lights you up and fills up your tank? Or, do you get home and you run around from one task to the other and, all energy depleting activities? Because that's essentially how I used to run my life. And do you have an empowering morning routine? I've created a miracle morning routine, which I love, and I've really honed in over time. I'll talk about that a bit later. Or before your shift, do you race out the door, no time for breakfast, guzzling the coffee? And that, again, was something I used to do, was start my day just racing, rushing, hadn't nourished my body with good food, and I was racing out the door already stressed before I even started. So these are all really important to reflect on. And the other thing is, are you able to depersonalize or compartmentalize or create an energetic barrier before you start your shift? Because this was something that I really, really struggled with in emergency in the earlier, years that I'd started there, because we used to, I think we essentially look after 3 to 4 acute patients at a time. And I would walk into one cubicle and there was a lady who was obviously having abdo pain. She was distressed and really upset. In the next cubicle, there was a lady who was having a miscarriage, for example, and was obviously so super sad and suffering as well. In the next cubicle was a gentleman having a heart attack. So he was being worked up, and bloods and ECG and all of that. And then in the next cubicle was a mental health patient who had suicidal ideation. So as I was walking through, I was just taking on all of that energy of what they were going through. And as an empath, that can be really, really tricky to deal with. So of course I'd take it all in and come home and I'd be just churning over all of that stuff. And so what I learned to do was to really create a bubble. And it's just a visualization of, I've got this protection bubble around me and I'm not going to take on all of that energy, because yes, I can help, but I don't need to take it on into my own, if that makes sense. Now, with boundaries around work, we did talk about this a little bit before, but it'd be, to reflect on, are you on call all of the time? Are you taking all of the extra shifts that come up? I remember, putting my hand up whenever there was sick leave or overtime, and I was saying yes because I was too scared to say no. And in the process, my family really suffered from this, and so did my health. And I had zero work-life balance. It was top heavy with work, and there was nothing over here for life, if that makes sense. And I would really just probably lay on the couch exhausted, and then my days at work would start again. So I'd spend my days off just, eating rubbish food because I was so tired I couldn't even cook. And then, didn't have the energy to go for a walk or to do anything, or to do, something that was out of work on my days off, which was really, really sad. So what I ended up doing was decreasing my shifts just by 1 shift over the 2 weeks, or we call them fortnights here. And I stopped the overtime. So I stopped putting my hand up. I started to say no. And I just allowed myself to have 1 extra day to myself. That it had the hugest impact on my health and my well-being. And it was really a time for me to recover, to have that downtime and catch up. So with daily rituals, studies show that the happiest, healthiest, and wealthiest people in our world today practice consistent rituals or habits that ultimately have a powerful effect on success in every area of their lives. So small daily habits just play a really important part in setting ourselves up, in health, in wellness, to feel energized. And it's, at first I thought, I'm a shift worker, I can't have a routine and I can't create, these daily rituals. And I dismissed it, thinking that I wasn't able to do that for myself. And then after a little while and doing some work and practicing, I started to implement things that I could just add to my day. And if I did an early shift in the morning, well, I'd practice them in the afternoon. So I just shifted it around depending on what I was working. And what I love is to really own the day before it owns you. And that's where I created my miracle morning routine. And it's just a chance to connect in before going out and being of service to others. And in doing this, it just fills you up, that energetic cup, and really empowers you. So it took a little bit of trial and error, but I worked out, just a routine that could be done and I could implement in my life, and it didn't have to be perfect. So I just opened up to being flexible and played around with a few things. So now, for example, if I go have an early shift, I have to be at work at 7 a.m. So I might get myself up just 30 minutes earlier to do a couple of things, whether it's a meditation, whether it's a 20-minute walk, whether it's to sit and journal. This can all be done if we just give ourselves that little bit of time.
Yeah, I agree. It's really nice to have some time. I find in mornings is best. I also wake up a little bit earlier to do some stretching and meditation. But I find that it's actually a beautiful time before the day starts, and all these demands are asked of you at work or email or text messages and all those things. So it's actually a really nice time to connect and listen to my body and calm my mind, and trying not to have that racing start to work, like rolling out of bed and racing to work and being all like anxious getting in there. So I agree, that's a great time to do it.
It is. And when you think about it, when we're rushing out the door, we forget our lunch, and we've got coffee or whatever, and you're running and you're racing and you get in the car, and then the heart rate's up, everything's raised, blood pressure's up. Before you even get to work, you can't think clearly. You're just in that gear of it's a rush, it's and there's that calmness in starting. We just don't allow ourselves that when we start the day in that rushed mode. And I found just giving myself half an hour extra made all the difference. It really did. And I went into work, and I go into work now feeling so mentally clear. It's just a whole different start to my day. So
right, yeah.
So this is just a quote: creating a healthy daily routine keeps you grounded and can have a big impact on your physical and mental health, which is so, so true. So the daily rituals that I love and swear by that really protect my energy. And so this is all, before I go out there and before I put myself out to others, or even after my shift, I do this as well. So whatever I don't get done in the morning, I make sure that I'm doing this to protect my energy after my shift. And so what I really found was 7 to 8 hours sleep for me is really, really important. And everyone has different, levels of sleep. A beautiful woman contacted me the other day who's on 4 night shifts in a row, and she said, I get 2.5 hours sleep a day. And it's just not enough to function.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just couldn't stress enough that you need to have a healthy sleep routine. And it's hard when you do shift work. I get it. But creating a wind down routine, whether you have a bath at night, have a candle, read a book, make sure that there's no bright lights on the screen. That blue light screen can really affect our sleep if, before bed. So just creating a sleep routine is really, really important. Daily exercise. So important. Just 20 minutes a day can make all the difference for our mind, body, and just fill ourselves up. Even though it's an energetic workout and energy depleting, it actually has the opposite effect. And you know, we feel good after we've exercised. We get the blood pumping, we've got those endorphins flowing. So it's really, really so important. And that's definitely one of my non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling is also a really, really great way to download after a hectic shift. And I love this practice. This has really helped me process the craziness of work. And I take my journal with me in the car. So when I get out of work and I sit in the car, instead of driving home and, you know, as soon as I get in the door, I've got to put my mum hat on and it's the children want me and we're doing sports, cooking dinner, whatever. I just sit for 5-10 minutes before I get home and just to reflect on what just happened and how I feel about it. It's really, really good to just offload those thoughts onto paper and not have them swirling around in your head, if that makes sense. So I found that is really, really important in my routine as well.
Yeah.
The other, sorry.
I was going to say that, yeah, that's really good to offload your thoughts and your emotions on the paper, and make that transition after work to whatever you want to do. And for you and for mothers, it's your second shift.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It's that transition. It really helps you transition from work to this is now, you know, Michelle or Claudia time, you know, where we get back into life. We've all just, you know, worked with so many people and, you know, in emergency, we've got, you know, doctors running around everywhere, patients coming in and out, radiology, taking patients off for scans and lots going on. And you're dealing with a lot of people in one shift, like 1 8-hour block. So, and I used to find my mind would replay. I'd get home, I'd sit on the couch and I'd replay the whole shift over in my head from start to finish, thinking, did I do enough? Like, was it? So, yeah, this is really, really good to stop that from happening.
Yeah, I used to, when I was working on the floor as a nurse, I used to, you know, at the beginning, I used to call friends on my way home and chat, but then I realized I just need some quiet time actually, and I can't have all this input in. So
yeah,
took that time to transition and just be quiet, maybe listen to some music that just needed that transition after work and time to like calm down a bit.
perfect. And you're right. Like, that's such a good reflection and an awareness, because it's like no more input. Can we just have the quietness? Definitely. Yeah. So where am I up to? Journaling. I've just got my notes here. Oh, food, nourishing food. That was something that I was so poor at. And like I said, I'd race in the door with a big cup of coffee and then I'd have more coffee throughout the shift. And I wasn't actually eating a really healthy, nourishing meal to breakfast or whatever it was before my shift. And so, and, you know, you might have chocolate that's on the nurse's desk or whatever that lays around all that food, that sweet food and whatnot. And it's so bad for our sugar levels. And, you know, you've got that big spike and that big drop when you're eating so intermittently like that. And I found in resus that I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't focus when we had a resus on its way to us and we were setting up. I was just thinking, wow, I can't think straight. I can't, you know, and I I hadn't nourished my body. I hadn't eaten properly all day. So there's no way we can function at our optimum when we're not fueling ourselves with good, nourishing food. So that was really, really important for me. And the last one I love, which is a really, really beautiful daily ritual to help protect our energy, is meditation. And I never thought I had time for meditation because I was always so busy and rushing to and from work and with the children. But it actually changed my life. It has been so, so incredible to such a beautiful daily practice that I now can't live without. And I'm so much calmer now in how I show up at work. I am able to think so clearly. And a perfect example is we had a really, really horrible resus come in. This was at the start of my journey when people started to ask me what I was doing. And, you know, there was chaos going everywhere, and we were in the middle of this resus, and I was able to think so clearly. And as the resus nurse, was just able to talk to everyone in that room in such a calm way and know what was next and what was needed next, and just guide people and ask for what was needed. And one of the senior doctors grabbed me and he said, "That was amazing. Like, so impressive. You were so calm and you just knew what was needed next." So that was really important. I put it down to meditation.
Mm-hmm. And for us, recess, is that like rapid
So
response, like if patient needs critical help at
yeah, so in emergency we have 2 resus bays, and that's how our emergency set up is. We've got the acute bays, we've got like walk-in patients that are essentially you know, not super sick and just need a consultation, I guess. And we've got mental health rooms, and then we've got resuscitation, which are our really, really sick patients where everything goes on in there. So patients needing intubation, or you know, trauma patients, heart attack, that are really needing specialized care. So yeah. And I used to get really, really, as soon as the phone rang, because our paramedics generally call. So we get the call saying they're on their way, this is what's going on. And we go and set up the room depending on what they're bringing in. And I used to get really, really flustered and not be able to focus. As soon as that call come in, I'd already start, the heart would race. But now I'm just so really clear about, it's all good, let's set up. And, you know,
great. Yeah.
totally different.
Really built up your resilience and able to tolerate like stressful situations.
Yeah. And I think it's all to do with these practices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the other thing that I want to touch on here is, what is your true calling in nursing? And this is something that I had to really, really look at, and look at what area in nursing lights me up. What do I really love in nursing? You know, did I love what I was doing, or was it making me feel anxious, exhausted, and frustrated each shift, which it was? So our environment has a really big impact on our energy, and it's really important to get clear on what type of nursing is for us individually, because there's so many different areas out there that we can explore. And I remember thinking I wanted to be an intensive care nurse, and I had done my practice. I'd done my placement in intensive care. I'd done my extra degree, but every shift I would leave and I was just feeling so mentally exhausted. I just, as much as I tried to, I wasn't loving intensive care. There was just, whether it was because I couldn't talk to my patients because they were on a ventilator, I found it really energetically zapping. It just took everything away. So I started to look at, well, what do I love? What do I like in nursing? Because I'm not an intensive care nurse, doesn't mean that I'm not a nurse. Doesn't mean, and I think we have all of these preconceived ideas that, well, I did, that a real nurse is this, or a real nurse works here. But in actual fact, we can work anywhere, and we just have to get over those limiting beliefs about nursing and really go within and think, well, what do I love? Am I in the area that is good for me, that I really shine in? And what I started to look at was, was I an introvert or an extrovert? And the girls who do my program now, we look at that, and one of the beautiful women was an introvert, and we sort of explored that. And introverts generally thrive in environments where they have more autonomy, maybe that one-to-one sort of care. There's more routine. It's generally a quieter environment. And extroverts really thrive on chaos and crazy busy and people. And so this beautiful nurse that I work with was working in emergency, but she was so lost and so just struggling in general. And when we talked about this, she said, I'm such an introvert, and I'm trying to fit into this environment that's energetically draining me and exhausting me. And so she had this real light bulb moment and went on to find a position that essentially helps keep older citizens or older people out of the hospital. So to implement care for them and put care in place for them at home, more services. And she loves it. She absolutely loves it. And she is thriving. She's shining. She's found what area she loves. And the thing was, she was trying to fit into this environment in emergency nursing, and it just wasn't for her. So, I think this is really important, because when we show up in our workplace, sometimes it might not be the right fit.
Mm-hmm. That's great to know. And I think just having these practices too, like meditation and journaling and getting exercise, like all those things can help you like tune into what you need and what's not right. I find like with meditation or after doing some exercise, just light bulbs go off in my, light bulb goes off in my head. I'm like, wait, like I should be doing this, or this isn't right, or let me adjust this. Like things are just become more clear. But that's really important to note. And you're right. Yeah, there's a lot of people, when you say a nurse, everyone, a lot of people think, okay, hospital. So like, oh, you have like crazy shifts or what, so a lot of people are not aware of all the different types of nursing and all the different areas. But you're still a nurse, and we are fortunate to be able to have different areas of work, like administration behind the scenes in the hospital, clinic, or whatnot. That's a good thing to explore.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're so right when you say, meditation and exercise definitely makes the picture clearer. It really does. And like I have those light bulb moments all the time where I think, I know what I need to do now. Like if I'm struggling with something in my head, or I'm not sure on something, it definitely makes that picture so much clearer for you to decide on, important things that come up, whether it's work related or personal. But yeah, I think I definitely held that belief that if I wasn't working in intensive care, then I wasn't a real nurse. And it's just so silly when I look at it now, because that area just wasn't for me. Yeah. I've just got to put another quote here saying, you know, your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. All right. And so the last piece of the puzzle here, or the last little bit I want to talk about, is self-worth, and how we see ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. And this was definitely a lot of work that I had to do, and I guess I'd now teach in my programs, is just going inwards and really looking at our self-worth. And self-worth is a term that describes an internal sense of being good enough and worthy of love and belonging of others. And it's really about the importance that we place on ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves and act, are all really byproducts of our self-worth. And in my time of burnout, I had lost all self-worth. I had low self-esteem. I had no confidence. I really felt inadequate and incompetent. And it was, you know, doing this work that I really needed to help increase my self-worth and be able to show up feeling confident. And in turn, that really, it helps with relationships. It helps, you know, in your professional relationships as well as personal. And I was then able to see that I was a capable nurse, and I had good qualities to bring to the table. And even everyone's different. We all have our little way of doing things different, but ultimately that's okay. So I think I was really, really struggling with self-worth issues. And I guess that had stemmed from the burnout and the overwhelm and the fatigue that I was experiencing as a nurse. And so I really had to build that again. And, you know, in doing that and doing all those work and creating those beautiful, empowering daily rituals really helped me to find my self-worth again. And so to develop our self-worth, you know, no one else can do this. We have to do this for ourselves. It's really doing that inner work and going on that journey of personal development. And you know, after doing this, I really started to flourish in personally and professionally. And what I did was I stopped comparing myself to other people. And like I said before, we've all got amazing qualities. We all bring something different into our nursing careers. So I had to stop comparing myself to others. I also started to create a list of what my really good qualities are. What was I really good at? How was I good at helping other people? And then I went on a self-love journey, and I started to just accept myself for who I was and for all that I am, and celebrating my achievements instead of, you know, just going on to the one thing and to the next and trying to get as many certificates and courses up my sleeve. I had to stop. And I think so many of us are guilty of that, is we just move on to the next thing and to the next and never give ourselves that celebration that we deserve for just doing that incredible thing. You know, for my critical care nursing course, I didn't celebrate that at all. I just dived right in and kept climbing the ladder, and then never stop learning. So just being really open to expanding your knowledge and skill set, and knowing that knowledge is power. And this really, really helped me to go on that journey of knowing my true self-worth. And you know, when we have our cups are filled, that energetic cup, when we are, you know, feeling amazing, we're well nourished, our self-worth grows as well. So, and we just show up as a different person, personally and professionally.
And this ties in with boundaries also, because if you have, you know, low self-worth, you're probably going to have, you may have low boundaries also. But if you have higher self-worth, then you value your time and your space and your energy more. So that's a great point that you bring up.
Yeah, definitely. And that was truly where I was at, with no boundaries, no self-worth. I was such a people pleaser that I felt like I had to be available to everyone, including work. And yeah, my self-worth was really based around work. And I thought there for a while, the more I work, the more I'll be valued, the more I'll be, you know, valued as a nurse. People will see that I'm working really, really hard and putting everything in, but that never happened. It never happened. And I had to do that work myself. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you, Michelle. That's such an important topic. And there's your social media. You can follow Michelle on the Happy Healthy Nurse. We can also drop her information in the comments on the Facebook chat here. And also it's on our website, www.mindfulnurses.com. And you can also share what you have going on right now. I briefly mentioned some of the courses that you have.
Yeah, so I have got a 12-week program called the Healthy Happy Nurse. So I've got, this is essentially my core program or signature program, which is just a really beautiful journey to help women or nurses who are feeling exhausted and burnt out and overwhelmed and just not sure what they're doing. And a lot of the nurses that come to me are sort of just feeling really lost in that frustration. And so the program's a 12-week program with an online course. The course has 8 modules or workbooks to work through, which are self-paced. And then every 2 weeks we have a Zoom call with the girls or the women in the program and talk about what came up for them during the week. So it's such a beautiful way to connect and realize that, like, you're not the only one going through it, because so many out there are. And in the 8 modules are really the 8 pillars that I discovered that helped me transform from that burnout to thriving, really. So we cover things like awareness and acceptance, finding you, mindset, daily rituals, that's a really big one, limiting beliefs, creating work-life balance, nourishment, and decluttering. So yeah, there's a lot of work in there, but it's everyone gets lifetime access to this. So people go back to it a lot. And even I go back to it myself when I'm feeling a little bit. Yeah. So that's my 12-week program. And the other one I have at the moment is From Survival Mode to Thrive Mode, which is it's a mini course. So it's a short, couple of hours with a video to watch and just a workbook to work through and reflect on. So a lot of the women who have done that have said, right, it's like, I need more now. They've had a spark light up within inside. So they're my 2 courses.
Yeah, that's really great. It's so important to just take pauses and have some self-reflection too. And oftentimes a lot of people don't do that. They're just running through life onto the next thing and onto the next thing, and just not stopping to think like, wait, is this really working for me? Like, are there things I need, could adjust that can improve the quality of life? So that's wonderful to look at that, and also keep our fellow nurses healthy and happy and content, and keep doing what they're doing too. And of course, if they love it, or shifting into a different realm of nursing that fits them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think life is so busy for everyone now. Even though we've had, pandemic, COVID all going on, life is so busy. We've all got, commitments and work and, family. So this is, one thing was that investing in myself, like back in my journey right at the start, I wouldn't invest in myself or do the work. And I think it was one little program that I took, which was a short course that, it lit me up. I was like, right, I need to go in and really explore here because there is so many things that I'm missing. Yeah. So.
Yeah, like people easily spend money on food or, vacation or, things. So it's just a mind shift, I guess, investing money into programs that help you, or education, self-care.
Yes, definitely.
Important, right?
And my husband loves it now because I don't spend my money on shoes. That was my thing. I used to just buy shoes, and not that I would ever have a chance to wear them because I was always at work. But he's like, stuff like that, it doesn't interest me anymore. I love this real stuff and being really present and connected. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing all these beautiful tips and highlighting the importance of setting boundaries and protecting your energy as a nurse. Very valuable. Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining. And stay tuned. We have a Wellness Wednesday every week. We also have an upcoming Nurses Week online retreat, May 6th through 12th. So stay tuned for that, and we'll have lots of great sessions and also some physical practices you can participate in. So stay tuned. Again, keep up on our website, www.mindfulnurses.com, and you can also sign up for our mailing list. Thank you, and see you again next week. Take care and be well.
Thank you.